Hey, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the bullshit and talk about the nonsense happening in our backyard. I'm Spencer Fox Peterson, and along today is Laura Saylor, and we have a special update today. We're just going to get right into it. Sandra Birchmore's alleged murderer, Matthew Farwell, former officer Matthew Farwell, has
Yes.
been in by the by a federal grand jury on murder. So, without further ado, welcome back, Laura. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Spence. I'm glad to be here. I initially waited, but not long after you start to think, well, what about the rest of them? What about the twin brother? What about Divine? What about I don't know. So it's kind of interesting, and we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, so for the audience, if you haven't heard the episodes, we've talked about the Sandra Birchmore murder. It was ruled a suicide. It was not a suicide, in my opinion. Um, Laura has been advocating for justice for Sandra, along with many others in the South Shore region of Massachusetts. So Laura's kind of is more familiar with the details. So I'd love you just to recap for the audience, like kind of what happened, what's the deal, and how we got here. Just a
Yeah, poor
quick
Sandra.
overview. Yes, poor
Yeah,
Sandra.
well, Sandra got involved with several Stoughton police officers at the age of, I believe, 13. She joined the Explorers program. It was led at the time by you know, Divine and the Farwell brothers. Um, and basically, what happened was they groomed her. Um, they had sex with her. They passed her around to their friends over the years. And in the meantime, she had no father. She had a mother and a grandmother. Both passed away in 2016. And, poor Sandra, like, she was like, the poster girl for, victim. I mean, what these people tend to go after. And they took advantage of that. Um, Sandra got pregnant. She was, by all reports, happy about the pregnancy, very excited about it, and said that this Matt Farwell was the father. Um, and he happened to be the last person to see her alive. She was found 3 days after he was caught on video coming and going from her apartment. Um, she was found dead. Initially, the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office and the police said, oh, um, she committed suicide. And nobody who knew her, who I spoke with, believed that she committed suicide. And it didn't sound like she would commit suicide. Um, and then, of course, the story, they couldn't, there was no denying what was going on at that point. All of the grooming and the exploitation of this girl by these police was just disgusting. And there was some talk about, the chief did, well, what did the chief ever do when all this rape was going on and all this child grooming? Well, they started at 1A. Well, where did that go? Nowhere. Went nowhere. Um, but finally, I guess the feds decided to charge him with murder, Matt Farwell, and they picked him up in a parking lot in Revere. He's been trying to start a landscaping business. He lives right next in the town next door to me in Easton, trying to start a landscaping business. So he was up there with a gravel truck, and he stopped in a shopping center, and apparently they took him in, and they're even talking about the death penalty, which I don't support the death penalty, but I'm kind of surprised they went, as full bore as they did after so long. And
So I think it's funny timing because
yeah,
the Democrats just had the Democratic National Convention and they silently pulled the abolition of the death penalty off their
I
party
know that.
platform, which has been a part of the party platform for over 20 years.
Yeah,
And even before that, they weren't pro death penalty, and it seems like they're moving towards the
Yeah.
first step is to remove even the abolition of it, and the next move. So it's really funny because these cops tend to be MAGA, they tend to be right wing, and yeah, I mean they're going to make an example. This is Derek Chauvin, you know, they're
It
going to make
is.
an
Yeah.
example out of him, and I think the real issue here is that there was it's I don't know what the term is, but infanticide is what I think of. Basically, it's not an infant, it's a fetus, but he not only did he take the life of Sandra, they're alleging it's
His
also
own child. Yeah.
yeah, it potentially is it was a fetus regardless. It's
What's right,
confirmed she was pregnant.
what's really horrible about this too is guess where he was the very next morning? In the hospital with his wife giving birth to their third child.
And his wife was age appropriate and Sandra wasn't. He's
Yeah.
actually my age. We're the same age, which
Oh, are
was
you?
like which was like, oh my God, dude,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I
No.
can't believe we give these fucking guys like if he was 28 and he met Sandra and she was, you know, 13 to 15, he was
I
about
know.
28 probably.
Well, I mean, you know who really like I
It's like, bro,
think
what are
was
you
leading
doing?
this, kind of the ringleader for all of this was Divine, right? And he's been a problem cop, you know, for years. People, you know.
And that's the Stoughton, former Stoughton chief of police.
Yeah,
Right?
yep. Yeah.
So the I want to tie this all together for anybody listening. If you're not familiar with the southeastern part of Massachusetts, I grew up in Quincy. Laura's in Mansfield. It's a small place. It's small, and I know there's a lot of bodies there, but everybody fucking knows each other, and we know these cops hang out in cult circles. So it's like all these same people that were involved in Karen Reed in some capacity, or you know, or not choosing not to be involved. This is the same DA. You know. Also, I have a question about the medical examiner's office all the way up to the top. How are there
Oh, I
two?
know.
How
Yeah,
are
the
there
medical examiner declaring that a suicide was just nuts.
and just
Yeah.
you know all the other stuff you know that woman, you know, you brought up Easton, for example. There was a woman on a
Oh,
wellness check that they fucking shot her
Marianne.
from their car.
Yes.
What a
Yeah.
bunch of assholes. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like I don't even have words for it, but just assholes, just pieces of shit. They treat life like it's gum, a gum
Yeah.
wrapper. It's trash. Everybody's life is just something you can ball up and throw away.
Yeah. Like it's like they have no value on life anymore.
I mean, possibly never had.
Except for their own.
And even then, that's the thing. It's like, you know, we talk about grooming all the time and everybody goes straight to like sexual grooming, and that, yes, that's a thing, and that's probably the most of it. But these men themselves were groomed to behave.
Oh yeah. Oh
This
yeah.
is learned behavior. This is so antisocial.
And this is why the military has had a notoriously horrible sexual assault problem forever. And every so often, an especially egregious case will hit the news, whether it's tailhook or any number of things that have hit the news over the years. And people say, "Oh, it's going to change." It will never change
And
because
it's not
mentality. It's the same with the cops. It's the same with the IDF, and they try to like
they dehumanize others, so they have to dehumanize, debase, and dehumanize themselves to dehumanize others. And the thing is, fear not, fellow American or fellow worker, fellow person who is like overwhelmed. These problems are not inherent to being an American or United States person. This is the problem with military and like legalized killing for a job. Like, this shit is bad for you, and you do bad things because you're so goddamn desensitized, and that's a feature, not a bug. Like you said, like sexual, when you said the military, that's literally every military ever has been full of a bunch of fucking rape. They're willing to kill for money.
Right.
And listen, you served. I don't have a problem with anybody that has done it. I don't think you're morally depraved, but like, you know, I'm not shocked that bad behavior comes out of
it perpetuates the culture.
Yeah.
The one thing I do always say is the difference between the makeup the ideological makeup of the armed forces versus the cops. I think that with veterans, you do have a percentage that go because, the poverty draft or whatever reasons, and end up hating it and leave. You know what I mean? You
They
do
do their
have that.
time and get the fuck out.
Yeah. Um,
And I completely
and
get
I
it. We're
don't think
brainwashed.
we
Sorry.
are, and I don't think they should recruit in schools.
Oh yeah.
Of course not. And I think that it's always going to be a problem when you have explorers programs. And what kind of fucking cops are going to apply to be a school resource officer? Nobody good. All right. Because the cop mentality, they want to be on the street being the tough guys. They don't want to be in a fucking school. And the ones that are going to apply to do that either look at it as a skate duty or, an opportunity to be a predator, because predators seek out positions which get them in with
I
what
mean,
they can right.
personally, if for
Yeah.
whatever reason I was in the shoes of a cop, I would totally want that detail because
Yeah.
I would slack the fuck off.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I would hide.
oh, yeah.
I would disappear. But yeah,
Right.
so it's like you either get the people that don't want to participate and just want to collect a check, which
Right.
I also don't have a
I don't
moral
have a
qualm with
bones
that.
with that. Right.
I don't have a moral qualm with that. I have a problem
Right.
with you being a cop. But
Right.
like I get that as a worker, like, yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, stick me
Yeah.
away
I
in a
get
corner
it too.
somewhere. But
Yeah.
school resource officer has stopped exactly 0 school
I
shootings.
know. I know.
Zero. Zero. It's
Every
absolutely
day there's like 4 or 5 of them that you see come across just that make the news across the United States that were found with child porn or,
oh fuck.
inappropriate relationship. Every friggin' day of my life, you open up the internet and you see.
It's no
Yeah,
different than the priests in the Catholic
yeah,
Church.
it
No fucking
really
different.
isn't.
It's no different. You give
And I
somebody a lot of
don't
power, unearned power, just because
and
they
the
went
type
through
of
a
people who
process.
want these cops in schools and these ridiculous,
That's
horrible
what we think of.
programs like the Explorers program are mostly like upper middle class cul-de-sac dwelling white liberals.
And also, won't somebody please think of the children?
Yeah,
Reverend Lovejoy's wife, Mrs.
yeah,
Lovejoy.
yeah,
And, like the one, and, the MAGA types too. I mean, the conservatives, I guess, at large and how they feel. It's like that shit always makes me laugh because they're like, what we need to do is arm the teachers. Oh, you want to spend more money on education? Since when? Since when do you want to spend more fucking money
no, they
ever?
don't.
Like, it's funny how they'll contradict themselves there.
Like, you
Like,
don't wanna buy them pencils, right? But yeah,
but they won't want to buy them the guns either.
no.
That's the
They'll
funny thing.
they'll have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and earn it over the summer.
But
Yeah.
yeah, this is the America. We just put everything to a 10. It's like, we got rid of, we kind of have not scapegoat, but we have definitely, I think, pop culture wise, demonized the Catholic Church to the point where nobody's going to put their kids in a fucking Catholic school at large anymore. Like,
Right.
the city I grew up in, there was 5 Catholic schools.
Yeah.
There's fucking 1 now.
I know.
And that's fine. Good riddance. Like, I went through it. Good fucking riddance. I'm not saying public education as it currently is constituted is a good thing.
Right.
But it would, I guarantee you going to a public school is far healthier than going to a fucking Catholic school.
Oh, yeah.
You're in a fucking prison. It's a prison.
Yeah. It is.
So yeah, like we stigmatized that. We got to do this with cops. Like, that's what's going to happen next, because like there are children and vulnerable people being constant every fucking day. And as you've said,
I don't think people understand the enormity of the problem. Every day I can find that day a minimum of 4 or 5
in a new cop
across the country that have been caught in something like that.
And a rookie cop
Yeah.
is being groomed into his role and being traumatized himself or herself, and then they become an oppressor too. Like, so they even though, like, as human beings, like, I have empathy to a certain extent that you are being lied to, you are being coerced, you have been sold a bill of goods for a little bit more money. And I can understand the want for that security, but like, they're harming you.
Yeah.
and you're harming a lot of fucking people. And the
Yeah.
real answer, the reason is the billionaires. It's the billionaires' fucking fault.
Right.
Like that's a
They
simple
want,
solution right there.
the ruling class in America wants basically what the
Infighting.
Palestinians have in the IDF over there. They want a militarized police state. And you're seeing that. I mean, it's obvious this among the political class, the elected class, they overwhelmingly support that. Um,
That's why it's so dangerous the way they politicized January 6th.
yes.
Because while the January 6th people are fucking assholes,
Yep.
they in their gut know there's something fucking not right. And I have to like be real with it. So anybody that's like wants to knee jerk and like punch on them, and it's like, listen, they're cannon fodder, man. Like let's yeah, it's fucking Peter Thiel. It's not even Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a useful fucking tool, not a
Yep.
not the second coming of Hitler, man. Like,
Um,
and even Hitler's probably a useful tool. Like, let's be real. There was fucking capitalists pulling the strings because who's escaped
and
World War II?
report here, and I mean,
I mean, and countless other Hugo Boss guy, the guy from Hugo, like countless other billionaire families. Like they just change teams again. They rebrand.
Chanel.
Yeah, Chanel. She was a collaborator, right?
Yep.
In France.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I kind of want to like call my mom up because my mom loves fucking Chanel number 5, and that's like a classic thing. But I kind of want to call her up. I just learned that recently, and I feel it apparently was pretty common knowledge. I mean, I knew about Henry Ford. I guess I just didn't know much about the famous European.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I just found Hugo Boss. I knew they were involved with the uniforms, but I didn't realize like the owner or whoever the ownership, the money in Hugo Boss. I had no idea how like influential, like kind of like Henry Ford was, like the Elon Musks of their day. It's like these fucking goons, like we got rid of feudalism and this is what we got now. They just fucking rebrand. It's so weird. And it happens over generations. So it's like you don't quite notice it, you know?
Well, I think it comes a point for everybody when they do. And I think that the more sheltered and comfortable that you are, the less you notice it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. This is how this violence that it's like a constant hum. So the Sandra Birchmore, you said this a bunch of times on the show. So I'm gonna quote you.
Yeah.
If there's one Sandra and 4 of these officers involved, then that means there's 100 officers and 400 Sandras. You know what I mean?
No, there's 100 Sanders and 400 officers involved.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. But like, yeah, regardless, it's this is I mean, I'm not going to get into the.
But I mean, she confronted him when he was with his family at town outings and all kinds of things. I mean, this was not unknown in town, right? So, on all of the things that I saw when Fanning and Dunn gave me
Fanning and Dunn, who are they? Who's
those
Fanning
are
and Dunn?
District Attorney, state police investigators on Sandra's case. I met with them, I think in 2022, I think. I met with them. Fanning was very overly solicitous, is how I'd put it, like almost to the point where it was kind of insulting, overly solicitous. And they just kept coming back to, yeah, but she killed herself. So they're really, we're really at a loss. And I'm looking at these texts that I have right in front of me and them admitting in these papers that, well, yeah, he had sex with her before she was of age. And all of the inappropriate shit. And you're not, well, yeah, but she probably killed herself. And it's like, and it just, I don't know.
They're so desensitized. It's crazy. Yeah. And I mean, these things happen every fucking day. And it's okay if you didn't know about it, but we have to confront this. And it's not just in policing, but it's egregious in policing because
Predators seek out positions of power over whoever they stalk. Right. They do. That's just what they do. And that's why a lot of police are like this. That's why a lot of priests are like this.
A lot of CEOs.
Yep. Politicians are, yeah. That's why you see that. You know, that they're gonna gravitate towards a position where their traits shine, right? So to speak.
Yep.
And that's what you're seeing. And as time goes on, I think it's getting even worse. I mean, it's been horrible my whole life. I've heard stories of police brutality and police doing things like that. But I think they've become emboldened since 9/11 in a way that, I don't know, pretty terrifying. And
Also, now we've had 3 generations. Well, I'm not even including the younger generations. I'm saying we got boomers, Gen X, and millennials. That's 3 generations straight of post World War II and propaganda TV.
9/11, yeah.
No, I'm talking even going back to like the 60s and 70s, like,
Oh yeah,
and then all the black exploitation and all the stuff. They honed their propaganda craft, the ruling class during that era, post World War II.
oh they did, yes.
And man, so we have 3 generations deep, dude. How do you explain like the idea of the TV show is cops is incredibly fucked up? It should never have aired. It's so unethical.
I know.
Also, these cops are doing crimes and we're giving them TV time.
I know.
And then it desensitizes us. There's like a million ways this is bad. Like I could literally list all the ways, like just the TV show Cops.
Oh yeah, just that's mentioned, Law and Order Special Victims Unit,
Ugh.
And
then we got
put it out that the actual Special Victims Unit at NYPD is actually a hellhole, and none of these people give a shit about their jobs. And it's not like that at all. That was, a lot of like, especially upper middle class to middle class women tend to think of Olivia Benson. Like there's an Olivia Benson when Olivia Benson's going to come save you. No, Olivia Benson doesn't fucking exist. I'm sorry, but they don't.
Also, a system should not rely on
an Olivia Benson.
Individuals doing the right thing.
Right.
The system needs to be designed to do the right thing. And we have to, that's why I know we're a little off base here, but I just got to tell the audience and you, like, I don't even describe to this left-right shit anymore. It's just like, do you want people to live or are you willing to let people die? Can we start there? Like, can we just build to some consensus? I'm just so over this fucking labeling shit. Like, we're splitting hairs, and meanwhile, there's people being bombed to pieces, and I still have to like schlub around for a bunch of.
Well, I think what has to happen now is like serious pushback on the propaganda that's going out about Palestine. Absolutely. I saw there was a riot with a police riot with a cops riot and act like assholes at one of the schools. Was it in Chicago or New York?
Okay.
Just like yesterday or today, students returning and they did a Palestine march and the cops went ballistic. And that's what we're up against. We're up against a ruling class. And unfortunately, a good chunk of the upper middle and the petty bourgeoisie that they're just fine with what the ruling class. They're fine with more police. They're fine with rounding up homeless people and criminalizing them for not having a home. They're fine with a lot of them. What really bothered me was Daniel Penny.
Oh God, the subway murderer.
Yeah, that he got so much friggin' support. Mm-hmm. And all of that support is nothing more than mean girl, nasty. Like they view these people as less than human. They do.
It's really a goddamn tragedy.
And I think it's like a lot of the upper middle class and the petty bourgeoisie feel that way. And it's really kind of scary because, they're the ones, as you know, that go to town meeting and donate to local politicians,
I go to town meeting. They hate me.
Yeah, but like they have clout though where they have a business.
I'm outnumbered. I am definitely outnumbered.
And they can like, donate a good chunk to someone's local campaign
Right.
and really make a difference in whether that person gets elected or not,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's kind of a mess. It's and to get off topic, although we were talking about this, I was talking about this with someone the other night, and this is kind of the same principle. Do you ever notice how terrible the roads in Massachusetts are? On Route 106.
Oh yeah. I mean, I drive for a living.
I
Absolutely.
think they've had to rip that job up.
Dude,
106 and
Mass
East
Pike.
times,
Mass
and
Pike's a
176
mess.
Mass Pike is a disaster. All of them.
Do you know how many trucks once a week at the Palmer stretch? Once a week.
Yeah.
An 18-wheeler, because they have this construction zone with all these like little overpasses. They're not really bridges. They're like these little gap overpasses.
Yep.
And there's like a whole row of them, and it's a hill, like it's like a valley. And
Oh, I know.
trucks, it gets real tight.
I know.
First thing in the morning, you got a lot of 18-wheelers, and they create turbulence between them, and they end up like crashing against the retaining walls in these. So there's no shoulder, and that's part of the problem because trucks need a little wiggle room. They need the shoulder. And they're trying to all beat the clock. They're trying to beat the traffic. Like, dude, it's a confluence of fucking. It's like I'm not even an engineer of any kind. I'm the son of an engineer, so I think in systems. And I'm just like, does nobody see that what the problem is here? There's too many goddamn cars on the road. The roads are whatever. It doesn't matter. And the way we contract out to like fix the road, everything's a mess. You're right. Everything's
It's a mess. But you look at other states that like don't pay, in Massachusetts, as you know, I can drive by road work because there's constantly road work being done and it's going to be ripped up and redone in probably a year. But nonetheless, there's cops at these details. Details that cops get paid all the time to work, right?
And a traffic cone would be more helpful, honestly.
You go anywhere else and they don't have cops doing details. They're not paying cops overtime to work details. No, it's some working person, who took, I don't know, certified in signals or whatever, and they go and they do it. In New Hampshire, that's how it works. In Maine, that's how it works. In most other states, that's how it works. You know how much money could be saved taking that do nothing gig away from them? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And half the time they don't even know what they're doing. Or they're not paying. They're on their phone,
Dude, I tell this every episode. I drive for a living. I consider myself coworkers with all the people on the road because I don't really have coworkers. So the cops, unfortunately, are coworkers to me. Like I see them on the clock. I'm on the clock. And they're beyond useless. Like, I mean, they're dangerous, but they're also beyond useless. And so I know you asked a question, and this is the dangerous part of cops earlier, like why now? And you were talking about how the ruling class sees, and the petit bourgeoisie, so like, the management class, if you will, the majority of the people we interact with, they only really get their ears perked up when it's a white woman,
right?
And it's something like not like something gruesome with nasty true crime details like this. This is another thing I want to say.
Class makes a difference. Class makes a difference too. Like
absolutely,
like look at the attention that was put onto Karen Reed in her case.
Exactly. That's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going with this.
Karen is, her father was a professor at Bentley or one of those schools. She was a professor there. They had money. They were, they're well off.
They were doing okay. They were doing good.
They
were doing way better.
She gets all this attention because she's, people think she's an attractive white woman, and poor Sandra was a kid.
And
yeah, poor Sandra was a kid. Poor. with hardly anybody.
So I think the timing wise, because this pretty white lady, this starlet of like with like a media cult like
Mhm.
following her around, I won't even get into all that. How I feel about that, because I don't really have full thoughts. Like, because I'm also like, if the state's trying to put you behind bars, like, do what you got to do. Like, I
Yeah.
disagree with like teaming up with Turtle Boy, but like, I don't know if it means staying out of jail.
And
Like,
you know what, those kinda
no, I
have
would
you
never
thought
team up
about
with
this?
him.
I think he's definitely gonna, yeah, but the thing is he's definitely going in.
Oh, he's fucked.
He's fucked.
It's a
He's
bummer. It's a
fucked.
real bummer, dude. Like, dude, they'll use you and abuse you, and that's a damn shame. I guess
Yeah,
this is what you get for harming all
he's a
those people.
fascist, right,
These people I know.
he's a
Um,
fascist, yeah, but, he's gonna pay the ultimate price for that, but, you know, you look at the attention, media-wise, the public, and a lot of it was generated, um, for Karen Reed, where, you know, I'm sorry, but, like, um but it's kinda like how I view January 6th. I don't get too bent out of shape about January 6th because I view January 6th as a fascist circular firing squad pretty much.
yeah, right wing infighting
Yes,
against conservatives.
that's how I view it. I didn't view it, and it was like, you know, come on, do you suck so bad at planning something like that? I mean, it was basically an enhanced riot. You know, they got in, they caused a little damage. Um,
I think Trump,
but
like everything else, he cuts corners. He
it
cuts
wasn't
corners.
yeah, clearly, because it was not like some kind of horrific violent coup. It was a mob of, you know, fascist fanatics.
Well, they tried to do like
On
the
the inside
they
and out, though, is my point, right?
well, they haven't done anything about the congressional people that were involved. Like, that's what's
Right.
stupid here. It's like if you're Law and Order Democrats,
But what
so
they're
real
so afraid of Trump too. They're, "Oh, we can't let Trump win."
fuck
The
that
way
shit. You're gonna be afraid of 30% of the country because they're in a
well,
cult.
not only that, spare me that bullshit because you people the only reason Trump is a factor right now is because you failed to do anything about him. Number 2, I mean, come on, it was a fascist circular firing squad. You guys have done nothing to hold different congresspeople, you know, upper level conservatives accountable for their role. You really didn't do hardly anything in that respect. So, yeah, and on top of that, you guys have your administration staffed with a bunch of Trump leftovers. So how are you telling me that you're gonna save me from Trump when you've got Trump's FBI director, you know, Trump's guy at the Fed, Trump's guy at the post office, you've got Elliot Abrams. How are you saving me from Trump? Exactly, right? I wanna know.
So where I think all this lines up, because people, the petite bourgeoisie was, the people that own the local media, the people, all the
Yeah,
people, interested parties, and like, well,
yeah.
this is gaining too much steam. We got to sacrifice somebody. So they let Michael Proctor
Oh, yeah,
and the prosecutor hang in the wind. They let them look like assholes, tarnish their careers because that's more. They don't give a fuck about the individuals, and that's what's so hilarious about all this is that they will always eat their own. So it's like, yeah, like you're part of a government that's willing to eat faces, and yeah, it's your turn because you fucked up. And so that's the
yeah,
deal with them holding these officers accountable. So Karen Reed, and this is all. So this, I should have said this at the top of the podcast. This is not a true crime podcast. We do not care about the fucking details.
no,
I
no,
need people to see that this is not a salacious story. This is a systemic failure, and
yeah,
it's maddening to the point where it's become my hyper fixation for the last fucking lifetime.
yeah,
And it's like whether it was hating the fucking principal at my grade school because she was a fucking fascist, dude. Like when even a kid knows some things, it's like that's not how we solve our problems. You don't fucking throw somebody in detention. Like, what does that solve? Tell me how
right,
that solves the fucking behavior. Like, if I'm a child and could inherently understand that, and
right.
then that's what got me in trouble because I would say shit like that. And I wasn't alone. I had other friends because it was so oppressive. It's like, you don't do that to kids. You don't do that to people. These people are
No.
fucking sick. So, anyways, these people, they saw Karen Reed and they're into true crime. So this is not a true crime show, and it never will be. But the true crime aspect is what, because now people are hooked on the drama in South Shore,
Well, because they've
Massachusetts.
been nursed for decades on propaganda on TV and Olivia
Mhm.
Benson and, all of their programs that, of course people are going to get swept up. I've noticed like the demographics of a lot of the people that are hardcore, show up to
It's
Karen
true crime girlies.
side. They're like middle-aged, mostly white people on either side of, what guilt or not or innocence or whatever. But they're middle-aged, white people. That's what it is.
So the only reason Sandra, because Sandra is so, all these people involved in the Karen Reed debacle are related or tied to this stuff with Sandra Birchmore,
Right.
and people are addicted to the are
Like,
it's
why
like
didn't you
pornography to them. They want to know about, like, I saw some of the grooming allegations in the indictment.
Yep.
This shit was fucked, man. This
It
shit was
was.
like
Yep. Yeah.
Silence of the Lamb type fucked up.
I
Like,
know that. Yeah.
this wouldn't even fly into like a X NC-17 movie. None of this. Like,
Yeah.
this is
I know
all
it.
beyond the pale. I know this stuff exists, but
Yeah.
like, dude, he hit all the nasty fucking things. And he's gross. He's a bad person if this is true. And I
Yeah.
certainly feel like it's true. But regardless, it's what I'm sickened about with a lot of these people is how you finally give a shit about atrocities being, done to your fellow citizens with our own money. Like, our own money is being used to harm people, our own neighbors and ourselves. But you just want to hear about the depravity that this man put this.
I think there is a sense of titillation with a lot of these people. I
It's like
do.
the stuff. It's like the body cams, or going back to
Yeah.
Cops, the TV
Yeah.
show. It's like they want to watch the
They,
state beat
it's
the
voyeurism.
fuck out of someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of it is.
but they're bearing witness. Fuck you, bearing witness. Bear witness to everything. It's not just one
I
thing.
know.
Like the getting down to the details and arguing with
You would
people in the
think,
comments
and
about
you
the
would think,
details.
my take on this, right? There were a group of women that, both supported Karen Reed and were upset about Sandra Birchmore. And I met a couple of them, and those women are wonderful people. They're nice people. But a lot of it, like there's a lot of black and white thinking, like just because Turtle Boy might say something, you gotta take a look into what he says sometimes, you know.
We'll
And
say it nicely.
the
He
same
takes
thing,
he
yeah,
takes leaps. He takes
he
giant
does.
leaps. And he
And
doesn't address systemic issues. He addresses individuals because he's
he's a
an
bully.
American.
He's a professional bully, is what he is.
But at the
Yeah,
end of the day, at the very simplest at his core, just like all these people, they do not understand the word community and they only understand individualism.
right.
And the only time they kind of participate in community is to exalt an individual. It's like, it's so fucking bizarre. Like,
Yeah,
like you said earlier, a fucking circular fascist firing squad. They all end up infighting
they do.
because
They
then
do.
they fight there, because their whole thing is about arguing about the minute details of this case and why all this matters. Is like, don't you guys just see how systemically the cops are abusing children?
Well, I mean, right. And at the same time, right, this whole thing with Sandra was going on. It was going on before Karen's incident happened. And this was going on. And what I don't understand is why all this attention on Karen. And, I'd have to look for, news about Sandra's case, whether, I'd have to check Boston Globe and see,
I mean,
about her family suit, but it wasn't. So, like, I have a lot of reservations about the intentions of some people like Turtle Boy and like some of the people that are making money on the other side. You know, they both got their like dueling friggin' podcasters and stuff.
Very
And
weird. It's very weird.
it's very weird, and it's very, very I don't like it. And
Because they
people
don't
want
even focus on the victims.
no, they don't. No. No. Nope. They
It's
really don't.
it's
No.
depraved. And they
Yeah.
think they in like, they're in the, let's talk fucking moral high ground because that's the key word on the internet these days. Um, I'm getting really I might have to mute that phrase on all my social media. I'm so sick of hearing about moral high ground.
I know it, right.
There's no fucking high ground if you just say stop killing people. That's not high ground.
Well, you know what I think that the
It's just a fact. Stop killing people.
The DNC social media operation gets talking points. And I've noticed that a lot of the blue MAGA trolls online have been using that one. It's picked up a lot, say, in the past week or two.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Boo.
So it's probably a talking point.
Remember, Kamala, let's bring this to the presidency. She promised that she will make sure we have the most lethal fighting force.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody, this is not my idea. I saw somebody point this out. Notice that she said fighting force and not military. Because they're going to militarize the police. The military can't go after us, but they militarize the police. That's the loophole in the system.
Yeah.
And it's really obvious what they're doing.
Well, the cop city's springing up every freaking where. Everywhere.
Yeah, right now, there's 69. There's 69 total, whether it's being built or currently finished products. So there's going to, if all these projects go through, there'll be 69 in 50 states. That's fucking crazy. There's no need for any of this. We don't need more prisons. Actually, President Kamala, she may mocked the schools, not prisons chant. We are in rough shape. But remember, federalism is not the answer. It is how they maintain control. So it's worth thinking about, right, everybody? It's worth thinking about.
True. And I might just use this too and this is not as important of an update, but it's all connected.
No, please.
Important is we were talking about, I think it was you I was talking to about this with Ron Sellon and how the local DTC lobbied behind Ron Sellon when all that stuff blew up a couple of years ago. And, he was a victim, and it was Kevin Dumas and, the town manager, who is pretty corrupt. I mean, he was the mayor of Attleboro. He was corrupt there. And then Mansfield hired him. So the DTC people would reach out to me and go, he really is a victim, and Kevin Dumas is the one that's got to go. And, that was their big talking point. And they got their people elected to, the town council. And guess what they did in one of their first acts after they laid off a bunch of teachers?
They brought Ronnie back.
Yeah, they brought Ronnie back. But
sorry.
They turned around, and after campaigning, if we get these people in, we'll have enough, and we'll get rid of, they'd say just dethrone the king about Kevin Dumas. And what they do, they turned around and they gave him a brand new, more lucrative contract. Yes, almost like right after they got right. So people like me are going well, wait a minute, both of them suck. Both of them are a problem. Sellon has no business being, a chief of police, and Dumas, is too corrupt to be in charge of any fucking town budget. Well, no, we're going to get rid of him, we're going to dethrone the king. That was the goofy little thing they were saying. And what they do, they gave him a new, more lucrative contract. So Kevin Dumas is a happy man, and so is Ron Sellon, unfortunately. Right?
It's a fucking racket, man. And honestly, cops fail upwards every day because they're not failing. I think that's an important thing. As a community, we need to they're not failing. They are doing they're getting bonuses, really.
They're succeeding at what their purpose is.
Killing motherfuckers. Yeah. So, U.S. policing there isn't a thing they're not capable of doing. And it's like, if it weren't so evil, I would almost be impressed on how consistently fucked up they are with the 40% of them admitting to abuse of some kind of a family member,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah,
they
that's
don't consider
middle.
screaming, they don't consider screaming in their kid's face not an outburst, as a regular thing. They don't consider that abuse. No, listen, we're all human. People snap. I'm not saying like you yell at your kid one time and you lose your cool. It's how you handle it, right? It's like how do you be like, hey man, that wasn't cool. That was a bad example I said. That's not how we deal with our problems, But how a cop fucking deals with it is he screams at his kids, and that's how he raises his kids. And
Well, I mean,
these guys don't even realize that's abuse.
We have Ron Selling on tape doing that in his driveway.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a stressful job. Well, maybe they shouldn't be doing the stressful job.
Yeah. His feelings were hurt.
Oh, poor baby. And that's I don't understand. We see this with people, creative people on the internet too. It's not just cops. When you do get ascended to a higher position, whether it's like a leader in the thought movement or even a chief of police, like, dude, that narcissism supply, it must be good shit, because something happens to you.
Yeah.
When you're in these positions, something fucking happens. I swear to God, I don't think people are born this way.
No, no.
And I almost feel bad because like it's a prison on its own. Like harming people systemically is gotta be bad for your soul.
It does. I hope so, but I think that like they see the world so much differently than we do. Right? They view it as, they're cleansing and protecting everybody of all the riffraff. They don't view people as equally human as they are. I think that's the difference, right? That there are people that don't view people as human.
Maybe it's my neurodivergence, but I don't understand that. As mad as I've been mad at individuals.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see somebody hurt.
No.
I mean, people hurt, not. Yeah. Have I been mad enough at somebody where I'm like, I hope you can fucking fall down the stairs. Like, I fucking hate you.
I know. But like, if it happened, I wouldn't, well.
I mean, I don't know. It's like when something like that happens, your instinct is to help.
Sometimes when bad things happen to bad people, it's not bad.
Like, bad. I mean, it's weird. Like, it's weird to be like excited seeing an indictment.
COVID, Hillary and Trump getting COVID, everybody thought for a minute, please.
Let this be the time.
But but like, I would, I'm not. We wouldn't like. I don't look at like a whole country of people or a whole race of people or a whole group of people. Weird. I want them gone. That's horrible. Especially the most vulnerable people. Ends up being the most vulnerable. You saw this. We started seeing this a lot more with Democratic mayors and governors in cities and the homeless crackdowns. The Democratic mayors and governors have been terrible for the homeless. Terrible. And it's only going to get worse. And a lot of their base thinks that's a good thing.
I mean, I think baseline United States eugenicist culture. Yeah. So I think it's just so baked in, this survival of the fittest, rugged individualism. You like, if you're on the street, it's probably your fault.
Yeah.
And then ironically, at one point, the majority of this country calling themselves followers of Christ. It's like, it's absolutely bonkers. We are the land of contradictions. And that's like, I like get really like, even during this conversation, all I can think of is like the original sin of just landing here.
Yeah.
Our people landing here.
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck, man. Like, I'm not saying things were perfect because we have no idea what things were like because we obliterated those people.
I know.
And like assimilated them, whoever's left. And I just can't think of like I think of all the possibilities. And it's like, oh, look what we got. Like everybody's being abused by these fucking freaks. Like
It's horrible. It's horrible. It really is. It's like, you know, and I'm actually seeing like, at least from what I see around people around me, is people like in our class, you know, working class, you know, maybe lumping too, but like, you know, the working class. And a lot of them who may have been bootlickers like 10 years ago are done with the cops too. The
yeah, I
cops
mean, I think
the cops are really like have reached a point, but I don't think, and what really bothers me, and what really bothers me with all the attention that the Karen Reed case got, which is part of why I stayed far back from that. I didn't want to like focus on that so much. Yes, I can see similarities and patterns in the people involved, and that does matter. But my focus was going to be on what was Sandra, because like I said, and like you said, if there's one Sandra, there's 100. If there were 4 cops involved, there were 400 who were involved or at least knew. And it makes you wonder what's going on with our kids, with these cops in the school systems, and these cops in like extracurricular activities, or in like, you know, what do they have that's a kid version of Coffee with the Cops, stuff like that. It's not a good thing. And
I think about, okay, what is going on in the medical examiner's office? And I know these are
oh, I
different
know.
medical examiners, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and like individual things, like, but like who are the state? I'm thinking systemically. Like I want to go up to the state level and be like, what the fuck? How many more
I know.
cases are similar to either Karen Reed, you know, maybe not involving the police at all, except for them just blaming somebody and rolling with it. Like there are other shitty police work where they're just being shitty, not even the ones where they're covering up their own crimes. Both are crimes, but you know, sometimes it's as simple as they're lazy. Like
Right.
I was on a jury in New York City, and weird, they let me on the jury even though I said I didn't like cops, and I was younger. I was 28, so like, yeah, it was probably 10 years ago, and you know, so like I was a little less mature about like how I talked about. They were like, how do you interact with cops? And I was like, not well.
Yeah.
Or something snarky, and and they let me on the jury for whatever reason, which is crazy. I thought that was gonna, you know, at that time I thought it was
Let
gonna
it
give me,
get you out of jury duty. Yeah.
but luckily, like, you know, it was like one of those bullshit things where you're like, all right, this kid is clearly like, I'm sure he's a little rough and tumble, like, you know, I'm sure he's probably not on the level all the time, like, but doesn't really matter because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a gun charge when they didn't even have him in possession of the gun, and it looked like a drop gun. So like 8 of the 12 or however many, I think it was whatever was in there, they were all like, just something don't feel right. But we had to actually like really push hard on the other 4 and be like,
Yeah.
think about it. Think, you saw them talk. Do you think they know what they're doing? They can't even cover up their like ham-fisted bullshit. I think it was one of those things. The kid got busted doing something else. They made a deal with him. He reneged, or they thought he reneged. Whatever bullshit they do between the lines that's off the grid, and they just wanted to fucking pin him up for something because they probably you know, just their bullshit. Like, and the fact that 8 of us in the room right away were like, yeah, this looks like that crime did not happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, and, you know, we even had to address like, okay, yeah, he probably does other technically breaking the law, like dealing drugs. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like, gotta work. Like,
Right.
fuck. Like, we're all living in New York City post fucking 9/11. Like,
Yeah.
gotta work.
Well, I'm really like the thing with the homeless people, and I think cops really get joy out of cleaning those encampments out, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of so like demoralizing. You know, whenever I see a video of it, I can't watch anymore because to see that happen to me is just so demoralizing that, they're literally taking like high pressure hoses and like sweeping those people off of the street. They don't give a shit about their sole possessions. They don't give a shit about what's their issue. Why are they there? Why do they have nowhere to go? It doesn't fucking matter. The yuppies are offended by their presence. And it's the same thing when you're talking about safe injection sites and
needle exchanges, yada yada
needle
yada,
exchanges and places
or
where people can use drugs safely, right?
or even just a public.
Scientifically, if someone looked at like the health aspect, the public health aspect of, centers where you can go and use safely, there's medical personnel, and what you get is clean and everything. From a medical and like public health standpoint, that's the way to go. We don't do that here, though.
No.
And you can't tell me that the people in power don't know that, like, the studies behind that show that, and that would be a step in helping alleviate a lot of the overdose problems, but they won't do it because they figure that addicts, like the homeless people, and sometimes they encompass both, are disposable. They don't view them as human anymore.
And then it's a money laundering operation because you put them in
It
the
is.
prisons, and then we're paying for the
Right.
occupancy, and they're not even getting a comfortable like health. They're not even getting
No.
rehabilitated, quote unquote. They're being farmed and
Right. Made to work, and yeah.
or just in general, like the cycle of getting we're literally farming humans to money launder the taxes. So these private entities, even if the prison is publicly owned and operated, they're still contracting out to a linen company. They're doing, or Cisco or the foods or any of this stuff. And those contracts, the whole thing is fucking rotten to the core, and it's capitalism's fault. And so, like, we can blame capitalism for Sandra Birchmore's murder. And remember, she's not the only one. And just because,
but I think what we need to do is really like, I think that what people need to start doing is really like making this look at, there's like how many of these cops doing this to young girls a day and boys? How many cops taking advantage of vulnerable people? Just keep like a daily tab. Say this many today that I know of. Because I don't understand otherwise intelligent people saying, oh, we need a cop in the schools, when seeing like the rate of them that commit this crime, whether it's, in an explorers program, an extracurricular program like that, or, as a school resource officer. This, Spence, because you look at this all the time too. That on any given day, you can find at least 3 or 4 of them that have been brought in for, either child sexual abuse material or, caught in the act or whatever. And there's still a push to put these fucking guys in schools. And like you said, they've never stopped a school shooting. And usually their presence makes it worse. So what are we doing? Why is there this push? And
we're doing what Americans do. We put a gun in the hands of an incompetent narcissist. Sorry.
I mean, it's the best. And some people say, well, not every school resource officer is a molester.
No,
and
of course not.
I don't think they excuse me, that they all are, but my take on that is the ones that aren't are those people that you and I were talking about that go there because it's the easiest gig they're going to get. And, they can sit in their office and play on their phone all day. And, it's really not difficult to deal with a bunch of school children, So they basically, they're one of them in Mansfield, I guess, goes out and throws a ball back and forth to the dog all day. It's like, you're going to attract that, or you're going to attract predators. That's just the bottom line.
They got him a dog.
They all got a dog. All the school resources officers got like, And they all had like a story about it, it was this rescue or whatever.
Oh my God, disgusting.
Joshua Hill had a dog that he neglected and abused because he didn't like dogs. He was
They don't
former
see it.
animal control officer in Stoughton. That's how Sandra got her kitten.
From Joshua Hill.
Yeah, who didn't like dogs. So he was
Weird.
the animal control officer. Then they gave him, I think it was like a golden or yellow lab mix for his duties at school. He got money for that dog and everything, and he gets the dog, and he never trained it. He didn't like it. He didn't like having a dog, and he basically neglected it. So when he had to step down, the woman that took his place, took the dog, and it was, not the best shape, I guess. So
I get
propaganda. I mean, and I know that sounds petty, but I don't like that. Like pretending that you like dogs, so you're going to get one to bring it into the school when you can't stand them. Don't get a fucking dog. Just be you, right? Just be like, no.
Yeah, no need to harm an animal.
No.
And maybe, this is me being cynical. Like if I was in the true crime sphere of the, I don't even know. I try not to even remember any of their names. There's a bunch on TikTok that got famous and they talk with the towny accent. And like there's like 3 or 4 of them. They're fine, I guess, but it's just true crime bait shit. And it's just like, they're not fine. It's actually really gross and insidious and I think they're ignorant to the harm they're causing. I really do. I don't think there's malicious intent. I think they're genuinely like mortified, and then they started making money on it, and that's
what
it is. But they're locked in on this. So
what I see a lot of like I never comment or interact with them, but I look through the feeds of both. Like the Free Karen Reed and the John O'Keefe people.
What are those? Wait, we don't have much time left. But what's the John?
They're all true crime nuts, is what we're talking about. They're all fanatics about this true crime. But what gets me, Spencer, is the fact that a lot of them, like, they're not lawyers or anything. They just watch a lot of true crime. And a lot of people think that they know the law inside and out better than, anything. And it's like, you don't, though.
Yeah, I mean, some are better than others. There's a woman, I can't remember, Sheila from Texas or something like that. She's a lawyer and she has very much disdain for police. And she's an interesting follow. I don't know where she's just a lawyer, so I think that's what just rubs me hard.
Yeah,
I'm not like into super like, hey man, loosen up a little bit, like, and that's me. I'm fucking uptight, so like, please loosen up a little bit. Like, you make me feel loose, like that's a problem. So that I will admit, I probably just have a bias, but I do think her takes are always good.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, Sheila. So like, it's not like this glowing endorsement. I don't really stan anybody, but I think she's really good, and she's pretty feisty about cop shit. So it's like, that's always a plus. Like, I think most lawyers kind of don't like cops. They don't respect them.
Yeah.
Because like, even these prosecutors will let the cops look like fucking assholes. Like, holy shit, they'll let them hang.
Yeah, I know, but they also do kind of hang out in those circles. The prosecutors do.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, but even they like feel above
the
top.
They do know, right? And I think we have to come to I know that after 9/11, we started putting cops, everything was about, making heroic cops, everybody's hero, first responders. And like, we have to get that shit out of our heads. Nobody is your fucking hero. Right. And
we should bring back the maybe not Rosie the Riveter, but
and when people get
pro-worker propaganda,
when people are getting all that narcissistic supply, shit can get really bad really fast.
Like, look at Taylor Swift and like her weird teasing of her political stances, and she's gonna like It's like, all right, we get it. You have power. Just
Yeah,
do the damn thing. Why are you making it about you, bro? Oh, right.
I know,
It's a
right?
drug. It's like, why does Trump want to be president again? Like, they're not gonna fucking put him in jail. He's not worried about that. He's addicted to the supply, dude. Being president must be the
I
most
know.
addicting shit.
Well, that's why I always say, you know what? This is like one of the most pettiest things I've ever felt, but I feel it very strongly, and I still do to this day. I think it was so awesome watching Hillary Clinton learn that not only was it not her turn, but that it was never ever going to be her turn, and that she lost to some, reality TV show fascist clown like Donald Trump. That's what she lost to. And to
She's
me, that was just, I mean, come on. And I hate Trump with all my heart, but I hate
right.
Hillary, I think probably worse. And
What's
it's like that was pretty funny. That was, a good moment in US politics to see that happen. That one point that I make. She learned that night, and someone else was saying, yeah, I remember she didn't come out of her hotel room, and she, it took a while to concede, and then she went and, yeah.
to
I think
lose
that's good.
to
Yeah.
lose to a
Mm,
a charlatan
I know. Yeah.
and a poor man's Barnum and Bailey circus
I
Hitler.
know.
Like, bro, that is so
It
embarrassing.
was so funny, right?
That's so embarrassing, and you fucked us. So thank you, I guess. Thanks for that. Like, I mean, not that you didn't fuck us any worse than any other
No,
goon, but
no,
like, yeah, I mean, you could you maybe you would slow roll the death machine like 2%, and that's worth something. But uh
yeah,
yeah,
that
to
was that
lose
was
to Trump.
it was,
it,
I mean, because that was always her goal. It's been her goal ever since she was first lady. I remember those days, it's been her goal. And, that was one of her slogans. It's her turn. And she's just so repulsive. She's a vicious, fascist war criminal. She's a right winger. The narcissism is like incredible. And it's just funny.
yeah, she was like a political hitman for
Yeah.
her husband's regime of power players, and it's like she was like, dude, the work she did just covering up some of his scandals or like softening some of his scandals.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, if I was your spouse, I would fucking I would yeah, I wouldn't be putting on a nice face about this.
Yeah.
I would maybe keep quiet about it, but I would not be doing PR for you. No, no, no.
No.
I
I
ain't your
know, right?
fucking maid.
I know. I know. It's they're very cutthroat people.
Oh god, it's so
Um,
disgusting.
and like I think we're reaching a crescendo here, and I can never put out of my mind the fact that you know things are really heating up with Iran and the whole region, and I'm just like, what, we all know what got us here, and you see people wanting to cling to that shit, and it's like, fucking let it go, let it go.
Let it go. They'll take mercy, man. Not saying you don't have to surrender nothing. It wasn't us. Like,
Right,
yo, we are hostages. And
right,
some have it way worse. Like
yep,
you're also a hostage, but
yep,
you are not in prison. But the
right.
threat of going to the prison is there. And you're not redlined because of your race.
You're not sleeping on the streets hoping that you don't get
Right.
roused and thrown into jail or killed by a Daniel Penny or like, you know, I
And
mean, come on.
your community's not even murdered by
And the
like
community
indicted.
like the Western community is doing to Palestinians. The community around about the homeless and the addicted is, you know, at best, mild dehumanization. What can you do? Learn helplessness type of shit. That's the
Yeah.
best you can get from a lot of these people, and it's like, wait a minute, do you not realize that, they're gonna come up the chain. You're up there too. They're gonna eventually come after you. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't buy that. They don't. I don't know.
Well, they'll learn.
Yeah,
And that's why it's important to rebel every day. Every day is an act of
every
revolution.
day.
And there's always a chance. Stand in your ground, like with your boss. And it doesn't mean that I'm not saying you have to be aggressive. If that's not your nature, that's fine. You can just, I know I can't work till 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
I have a schedule. I have other things in my schedule. I did my
To go
thing
on
here.
time
I
too.
got to go.
Yeah.
Unless you get, hey man, you can also play the political game. There's times you can,
Yeah.
pay it forward a little bit, make a, wink, wink, nudge, nudge deal. Hey, whatever the deal is, I'm not saying you have to be rigid about it, but there's always an act of revolution. I don't know. One of my acts of revolution is kind of giving people the stink eye in the bathroom when they don't wash their hands.
Oh gosh. Thank you.
It
Thank
drives
you.
me fucking nuts. It drives me
Thank
fucking
you.
insane.
Thank you.
I'm on the Mass Pike a lot, so like the when you're on these big interstates with the gas stations on them,
Yeah.
they're like just like they're a disease. Like I feel bad for people that work there. The amount of germs they're interacting with is
I
wild.
know.
People
I
coming from all directions.
I know.
And you're in the bath. I have to use the bathroom. Like I have to pee. And dude, the amount of people I see walk out of a bathroom.
Oh, it's so
wash their
vile. Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
It's a men's room, so I don't know. I can't speak for 100% of the population, but what I'm seeing out there is
I know. I know.
y'all gross. Wash your
It is
hands.
gross. It is gross. People, I don't know.
Wash
I
your
don't
hands.
know. Yeah. Basic
Especially if you
hygiene.
touch especially if you just touched your butthole. I
Basic
don't want to
hygiene.
touch your butthole.
Basic hygiene. Yeah. I
It's just
agree.
weird.
It
Or if
is.
like, sure, you don't want to do the thing, could you pull out some hand sanitizer? Could you do I think the social contract is I'm not just gonna like play it cool and walk out. Like you at least could
Right.
have a thing of hand sanitizer, or
Right.
maybe hit the hand sanitizer button on the way out. I don't know. I'm not saying you have to do the whole thing. I don't even know what I'm doing. I just feel like giving them the stink eye is the punishment they deserve.
Absolutely.
Consequence, not punishment.
Absolutely. I agree.
But yeah. And the thing is, we can do better. And that means getting engaged with your community, and that doesn't. Yes, we can lobby our government. Yes, we can petition our government. But even just like building up a unit of people, a network of people that you can trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Active
You're gonna
revolution.
need it. You're
It's
gonna
very
need it.
simple.
Yeah.
You do not, and the thing is, you're not gonna need it. You currently need it. We
That's right.
currently need it
That's right.
as human beings. We need community, and it's not super easy, especially when you work full
Nope.
time. And it's not exactly advisable to socialize with your coworkers under this current system.
No.
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I think you should form solidarity, but it is a kind of a minefield, especially in corporate, because
Yeah.
there's unwitting spies everywhere. And anytime people get too chummy, things go sideways. Because the boss man, the money people, they do not want us talking. They
No.
don't want us being friends. So it's
No.
tricky. And everybody has ambitions, and how you get ahead is being a snitch, I guess.
Yeah. It is.
We're and for what? It's just like being a cop, right? For what, 20% more pay than you would make otherwise?
Right.
Being the floor manager is not necessarily any more difficult or less difficult. I'm not saying it's not hard to like manage people and like make sure the day goes off. That shit's hard to get fucking people moving in the same direction. I struggled with 5 people. I couldn't imagine running a full kitchen in a hotel. I can work in it. I can be in the system, but I could, it's just too much.
No.
It's just too much, and it takes us, but typically it's snitches, because that's how you get that 5% more pay. But you end up getting isolated and yada yada yada. That's why it's just this whole system's got to go, and we got to kill the cop in our head, because if we don't,
Always. Yeah.
take accountability for how we police ourselves and others. So get rid of that Christian ass guilt. If you're gonna study anything about Christianity, the Beatitudes, right? I mean, or whatever, the other stuff, the good stuff,
We got to
the
give people. We
golden
got.
rule.
I think. What would give me more hope is that the public, like I said, started focusing in on the stuff that's real important. Like you comparing the Karen Reed and the Sandra Birchmore cases. Clearly, for the public's interest, Sandra's case is more important. Not that Karen's isn't, but like we said, Karen had her resources and everything. But the problem with Sandra's case too, who knows if these cops are still out there doing this? Who knows? Like I said, if there were 400. Where is that? This was such an egregious act. Where is that desire to go in and like audit the whole fucking bunch of them? And they're just not even indicating they're going to come close to doing anything like that. And I think that's at minimum, that would be what would need to happen, but I don't think it's going to.
And you mentioned earlier, and I meant to say this, but I completely spaced on it, but I think it's funny because normally when I see the word indicted, my heart sinks, like just instinctually. I go, oh, fuck, somebody's, and like, even if somebody did something wrong, I just know how awful the system is and what it's going to do to this person. So it's like, yeah, I guess I don't really care what they did because I know what you're gonna do. I know what you're gonna do to them.
Right.
And I don't know if that equals what most people are doing wrong. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be held accountable, but like, we got to rethink this whole thing.
We do.
It's possible. It's possible.
We gotta take these people out of positions of any kind of power over vulnerable people. And if you've noticed, I've noticed, because I talk about it a lot, is the growing desire of a lot of towns and cities to implement these programs where basically they had the police acting as, emergency social workers. And it's not going well at all, right?
Sonia Massey.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that wasn't the same
thing. Another thing along with the sexual abuse that, like, I could show you 4 or 5 stories a day. We should start keeping track of that, Spence. I'm gonna start logging that.
I mean, Craig on Twitter.
Yep.
Does that. C Tizzle, right? At C Tizzle. Is that what the handle is now?
Tizzy. Yeah.
C Tizzy. Sorry, the I looks like an L to me. I'm a little. I get my letters mixed up.
But anyway, But I mean, just these like sexual abuse cases, things like that, where they're taking advantage, where they kill people when they're in these programs, where they're supposed to be acting as like fill-in social workers, because we don't have a mental health system that works in this country either. And they have these people that they basically trained, to distrust and hate every citizen that they deal with, to deal with the most vulnerable people.
And they have a gun.
And you know why they do that? You know what the reason is for a lot of these programs? They want to get in to these people and they want to surveil their circles, who they associate with. That's what that's about. That's not about the cops being, benevolent and wanting to help the community. They are getting something out of it, and what they're doing is they're monitoring, networks of people, like your contacts, who you associate with. If someone's got a substance abuse problem, where did they buy their drugs from? That type of thing. It's not out of the goodness of their heart, and I'm sick of people pretending that it is.
Yeah,
it's really a lethal thing, and it does happen like several times a fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you hear, twice a year. This is happening several times a day.
Since George Floyd,
Yeah.
the on record police murders, and this doesn't like this stat is way undercounted for a million reasons because it depends on what you mean by murdered.
Right.
But the ones we know about in our confirmed murders, police involved shooting murders, deaths, whatever. That's the thing. They think they call them deaths. It's like so passive bullshit. That's how the federal
Yeah.
government
Yeah.
classifies it. And it's like it's been going up every year. So we're like in the 2000s. It doesn't include like the times they kill pedestrians and fucking high speed chases and pit
Right.
maneuvers. It like doesn't include. It's like there's a whole bunch of other like it doesn't include all the dogs they kill
Right.
and like
I'm
traumatize
talking.
a child.
I'm talking specifically when their duty is to care for a specific vulnerable cohort, like student resource officers, school resource officers, or these problem-oriented community policing bullshit scams. Um, if you just focus on that alone, you find murders and sexual abuse with 3 or 4 of them a day. Just you know, and I don't think the public realizes the significance of the number of times that's happening and the prevalence of it. I don't think they understand, and it's deliberate that they don't understand, and that they someone in Idaho sees that happened in Idaho. They're not necessarily looking in a Boston paper, and someone reading the Manchester Union Leader is not necessarily going to look at the Globe to see what happened over the border, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at them for that particular topic, you will see there's like, several a day.
Oh yeah, it's
And it's terrifying. It really is quite scary.
the amount of cops I see getting busted for, like you mentioned, the exploitation material, the child exploitation material. There's a guy on TikTok. It's like Black Man in the Wilderness. I think he's fucking funny. I think he's a former police officer. He's an older man. He's great. He's got a he has a disdain for cops. And I think it's because I think he was one in some capacity or was somehow in that community at one
Yeah.
point in his younger days, and he just saw it was bullshit and a cult, and that's kind of how he talks about it. But he does like all the every day he does a roundup of like cop stories of them being fucking gross. Like,
Yeah,
and it's endless. It's endless.
I
And
know.
he's doing like quick, like 45-second videos on it. And yeah, some of the stuff he shows and the amount of fucking child exploitation materials is
Unbelievable.
shocking.
Unbelievable. Yes. It's
Shocking.
ridiculous. It's like that's what really bothers me about Sandra's case, because the public is still in danger, I think, or at least there's a big, probability they are in danger of
And this
this.
doesn't account for how
Police.
many men
So
that
yeah, like why hasn't there been like, and I'm not saying that I agree with this system necessarily, but what I'm saying is if you had people at the top that were concerned about, oh, we got to root this out of our system if it's a problem, they're not looking into any of that.
absolutely not.
They're not looking into any of that, and I think this is going to be a fall guy, unfortunately. But yeah,
Justice for Sandra looks like accountability for that particular crimes. And I don't think necessarily Matthew Farwell. I think that man needs, based on this indictment, you can go read it. I'll link it.
yeah, I really like, yeah,
It's bad. And trigger warning. It's bad.
yep, I know
So
it.
this man is deeply ill as well.
And his brother was
Something.
even worse with her. It's horrible.
This stuff is
Really bad, really bad.
yeah, and the whole
Yeah,
story and the whole context of grooming
yeah,
a child to use
yeah.
them as a toy is
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did, and it went on for so many years.
literal and figurative. I mean, it's
Yeah,
gross.
that it went on for so many years, and you can't tell me none of them nobody knew. you know, she confronted them at town functions.
And
You know,
yeah, I think
yeah,
for me, people have like, I want to have space and empathy for people that are like fucked up and do
yeah,
as a result do fucked up things.
right,
Like this person, like as people in this society, we've all made regrettable choices, right?
yeah,
Like I won't deny there's no reason to like even point out anything specific. We've all made choices we wish we didn't make.
right,
The point is like, okay, were you in a position of power and with a child? Like, dude, it's one thing that it's bad enough when you do awful stuff to your peers. It's 10 times worse with a child.
right. You've really ruined that child's life forever. You know,
Even if she doesn't end up dead.
that's going to be with them. You know, I mean, um, yeah, it's this is just so like so egregious. Like and you know, it really is. It was so awful that you would think that like this would have gotten the attention that the Reed case got all over court. You know, all these months, but it didn't. And I think that that's intentional. I think that's to take public attention off of Sandra's case. You're going to have to do some things like arresting Matthew Farwell, right? But you know, it's not getting Karen Reed level attention. And how do you care more about something like a dead cop, a fascist circular firing squad, than you know what essentially is basically the sexual assault, grooming, abuse, murder of a girl by a group of adults. I mean, with power and like, you know, which one is more prudent? Which one is more one to worry about?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say definitely Sandra's, and it's because of the class issue, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why there was a concerted effort to push Karen Reed's story in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm saying it shouldn't have been pushed. It should have been pushed. But I'm talking about the difference in coverage between the two, if you're trying to get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I'm worried that they're going to worry, even if the amount of attention that Sandra's case will get, it will be all about this individual freak. Like it's
Right.
so egregious. It's like,
Right.
like I said earlier, it's like almost like Silence of the Lambs. Like
it's systemic, and it's more than it's systemic, and it's systemic at like a regional and a statewide level. You know.
Well, yeah. Where was the DA? Why is the DA covering for this? Where's the medical examiner? What's going on here? Why isn't the oversight in the state level? Like there is a confluence of problems here everywhere.
There is. Yeah.
And it took white women, initially
Yeah.
a petite bourgeoisie white woman,
Yeah.
who's still alive, mind you.
Yeah.
That also is playing why that one people care about more, because still they're dead. Well, what are you gonna do? They had no family. The only family was inside her, and we don't know who killed her. We think she killed herself, even though it's possible she didn't.
Yeah.
Because I know you can.
In the meantime, Karen's pretty. And did you see what she wore today? You know.
Oh, is that what they were talking about?
There was
really tuned out of that.
There was one account I saw. I want to say Twitter is mostly where I'm at, but I saw this account that was all they did was post and talk about Karen Reed's fashion for the day. And
Jesus Christ,
you know, it needs to be covered. But see, this is my point, right? It needs to be what happened with Sandra and the implications of what happened with Sandra are so terrifyingly horrible. Like the public, I don't understand why the public isn't just like pitchforks right now. It's really bad. And you like you said, you read the indictment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think we're numb. I really do. I think a lot of people are numb and desensitized. Like we've always talked about the propaganda. There's a million reasons. And we're beating a dead horse, really, but it needs to be beaten. Like,
Does.
how can you? I am having a hard time. Like, there are things that the soul suckers of the universe will never take from me, like the taste of good food. Like that will always mean something good to me, because of my just relationship to it over the years.
Yeah,
I'm a diabetic too, so it's like I really understand
good
all of
food.
it. Yeah, like, and just not even just good food, just I just kind of like, once you become forced to like be so in tune with what's going on, you
Yeah,
start to notice a pattern. You're like, oh, right. So like that's why you eat a balanced diet. I'm not saying I'm great at it either. I'm no saint, but if I didn't have to work so much, but but regardless, it's just like, also like, you're not going to take the joy of like sitting down and having a good meal. Like that's
no,
never going to be taken from me, no matter how shitty the
no.
meal is. Even like, no, you're not going to take that away from me. But um, everything else, like I'm at a loss personally. I don't need everybody to be rah rah like pitchforks, but like, can we just call it as it is?
Yeah, people
Like,
aren't people aren't people aren't seeing things in a realistic view. Like this issue with Sandra's case, that has implications. Like it's actually dangerous to the public that this is a possibility that this occurred over such a long period of time. And with her being very public about it, confrontations in at town events with them and their wives and stuff, you know, that needs to really, really be looked at and like, wait, what the fuck got us here? Um, that people are not like, well, wait a minute. Why were they allowed to get away with this? Why did this go on for so long?
oh, it's happening everywhere. That's why. Once you unravel part of this, it's a house of cards. It will literally fall apart because all these prosecutors, the judges, the clerks, all this stuff kind of implies complicity, in a lot of ways. The whole thing would fall apart, and they don't want that. So that's why they don't go after their own. That's why they'll
No,
fire their own. It's
they
very
will
rare.
sacrifice one or two, like a Chauvin or a Farwell.
Yeah, and there's been others, but like, yeah, even
They're
then,
usually people that like they can do without because like they're obvious, you know, and that's they really think that way. It's quite horrific. But
it's really unfortunate. But regardless, this is the Weed Out Special Edition. Thank you for coming on. Um, I'm really excited that we were able to get you on in short notice. It's unfortunate that's because of the murder of you know, a soul that just was looking for community. I mean, and went barking up the wrong tree at a young age, and these
a
men,
child that
a
was looking
child
for
groomed her. Yeah, a child, and it's completely this person. I mean, as close to as innocent as you can be, because 15 years old, man, like there's
yeah,
very little harm you can do to the world at 15 years old. So to
yeah,
be victimized so cruelly,
I
and
know it.
it's not the only one. There's nameless, faceless people, and it's
Yes,
not just women. It's not just children. It's not
yeah,
just girls. There's a lot of victims here,
there
and
is. Yeah,
you're a victim. You're being defrauded. As
yeah,
a taxpayer. You're being sold a bill of goods, and it's actually
absolutely.
poison for the community.
It is.
Like, I could argue I have a class action suit against the policing. Every police union in the country.
Yeah,
Like, why not? Like, they cause harm to us
they,
systemically. Like,
they
what are
do.
we fucking
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, they do. Loss of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness everywhere. Up.
Yeah. Well, that only applied to rich people.
Yeah.
Not the people that give them the
Not
liberty
the
and
people that
happiness.
they're fine with the cops clearing them out for out of their tents with pressure
Yeah,
high
it's
pressure
disgusting.
hoses. I'm
It's
sickened. I'm really disgusted with the state of things right now, but
Oh, rebellious tip of the episode. This is the last thing before we go. This is a bonus thought. One way I cope is in my everyday. I refuse to address people by their name proper. It doesn't. I'm not gonna like like make their name a slur or anything like that. But like, for example, Eric Adams, mayor of New York City. I refuse to call him Eric or Eric Adams. I call him Rick, Mayor Rick, because he gets so twisted when somebody's like, no, it's Eric. Like, that. No, oh, Rick? No, it's Eric. That's happened. My dad's name is Richard. My fucking uncle's name is Eric. And they were a year and a half apart. I know this is an issue. And that's why my dad probably doesn't go by Rick. He goes by Dick. It like to differentiate specifically away from Eric. Because Rick, Eric.
Adams is horrible.
So
Adams,
terrific.
He's it's like New York City, their mayor is like a fucking cop, and he's a nasty anti-immigrant, corrupt. Hochul is she deployed the National Guard to the subway just because people might be afraid.
But as going on with my revolutionary tip and how to cope, the nicknaming in your head, try not to be offensive, practice good, humanity. But, for example, I will never, ever refer to, okay, so like, I'm sure Farwell was some rank. I will never call him Captain Farwell.
Never.
Officer. Ex-officer, no, officer, because once a cop, always a cop. You're never ex. Fuck you. So yeah, because that would be so like that would piss them off so much if they were like a lieutenant. Yeah. I'm not an officer. Yeah. Okay, officer.
Whatever you say.
Whatever you say, bro. Yeah. You're still a bitch. So yeah, that's the revolutionary coping tip. Come up with nicknames that are respectful, because we don't need to dehumanize these people. They already are thoroughly dehumanized themselves, and that's how they're able to so easily dehumanize others, because they're trained pieces of shit.
I like that tip, Spence.
Yeah, well, that was just a random thought I had just now, because fuck calling them by their titles, fuck calling them by their preferred names. Like right. Even when Harris becomes president, I'm not calling her President Harris. I will be calling her Veep, because she is Veep from the TV show Veep. Like
I'll call her Holocaust Harris.
Okay, yeah, great. Even
I'll call her
Joey Genocide Joe, whatever you want to call him. Yeah. Have your nickname for him, because if they don't deserve their fucking name to be said with any respect.
No,
doesn't mean you have to dehumanize them, but you don't have to respect their fucking name, and you can fucking give them shit.
Every day. As a matter of fact, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and just remember to weed out the bullshit and assume all cops are bastards at all times, because there needs to be justice for Sandra and the nameless, countless, everybody really, because when you think about it, as we said, you're being defrauded as a taxpayer. So, I mean, everybody is literally being harmed here, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, you're right. You are right.
Well, Laura, thank you as always for coming on such a short notice. We did an extra long episode today. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll be back to weed out some more bullshit.
We will. See you later, Spence.
Bye-bye.